how the TV show The Walking Dead is a perfect summary of spiral dynamics. Hello, this is Chris speaking. Wake up with a video about the TV show The Walking Dead and spiral dynamics, because in this TV show you can see all the spiral dynamics colors very clearly, at least from beige to coral. For anyone who can see beyond the gruesome horror of this TV show, and of course the probably unlikable possibility of a worldwide zombie plague ever happening, although who knows, in light of recent events, you can see sociologically and psychologically what's going on here. Group dynamic wise, it's very, very well made, this series. So for everyone who hasn't watched it and doesn't want to watch it because of the horror part, the world is plunged into death. Most of the people die from a plague, but they don't end up dead, they end up undead. And the undead want to eat the still living. So there are only a few people, a few survivors who try to survive and not get eaten by the hordes of the undead. But it's not this old B-movie style where someone is getting trapped in a shopping center and then it's just shooting zombies. No, it's really the core of the series is about people working together to survive, which of course is beige. In beige, which is actually a theoretical color, because almost no one is living in beige. In beige, your only worry is to survive from day to day, physically. So unless you're homeless or living in slavery somewhere, you're not centered in beige. But if you're running away from hordes of zombies who want to eat you, you're centered in beige. To survive on your own, your chances of survival are minimal, so you need to group together, which is purple. Survival as a group is purple. And while the series is focusing on one group through all its seasons, it portrays different kind of groups, different kinds of living together and working together, surviving together, with more and less authority and more and less sanity. Different kinds of communities, really. There are some who are just roaming and running away, and some who are trying to settle down and build new communities. And usually there's a leader, which I think is very likely that there's a leader. Be it male or female, it doesn't matter, but usually there's some kind of leader being in charge. And if you have a very positive leader, that is still can happen in purple. If you have a very negative tyrannical leader, this portrays stage red. Best examples being the governor and Negan, who also portray psychopathic character traits, while Alpha just manages to stay in beige, basically. To resist these red leaders and influences, you have to start building even larger communities with more people who are out for justice. And this is where blue starts, like Alexandria, Hilltop, the Kingdom, and so on. One of them even has a priest, one of them even has a king, and at some point they also sign a charter of new human rights. And this is all blue. And because there are different communities now who are working together, orange emerges in the form of trade and technology. They trade goods between each other, food and tools and stuff, and they develop or redevelop technology. For example, they go to a natural history museum and start taking plows and wagons and so on and start rebuilding them, building a windmill and this and that. What started out as small groups of 10, 20 people are now communities of 100 people, restarting civilization. But always, 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 people are the biggest problem, the biggest enemy. At some point, they find out how to deal with the undead, how to protect themselves against them. But the enemy stops being the undead and starts again and again being some psychopaths who want to wreck everything and who don't want them to live in peace and harmony. And this is where green comes into play. Whenever they face a human enemy who wants to crush them or exploit them or enslave them or whatever, green comes up to protect themselves, to rebel. No, those are the first 6 colors, the first tier colors, beige to green. But what about second tier? Is there any spiritual aspect to this series? I think yes. Unfortunately, only metaphorically, but still. So what is yellow? Yellow is the second tier beige. Beige is physical survival. Yellow is the survival of someone who wants to lead a spiritual human adult life in a world of materialists. So you can see that the undead as sleepwalkers. Not as dead walkers, but as sleepwalkers. People who are actually asleep and who are very egoistic, only look out for themselves. There's no real individuality, there are only masses. Masses being steered by psychopaths. Which is the world we live in. That's one way to describe it. A negative view, but still valid. So in this unjust, unspiritual, materialistic, egoistic, more or less red environment, the yellow-scented person has to survive and find a new balance for him or herself. And at some point it becomes clear that it is nigh impossible to do that by yourself. So what are you looking for? You're looking for a community, which is turquoise. Turquoise is the purple of the second tier. In purple, you start a community or a tribe or a clan to survive, to better survive. In turquoise, you're looking for a community, joining or starting a community, because you can see that by yourself you're lost in the sea of the sleepwalkers. Or ghosts, how Don Genaro in Carlos Castaneda's Journey to Ixtlan calls it. You're living in a fake world, but no one else but you and very few other people can see it. So you try to find those other people and try to find a community where you fit in. Also in turquoise, intuition starts to develop. You see that you cannot continue this journey only with the mind and the body and your emotions and your instincts. You need something more to guide you. And this something more is intuition. But again and again, you're running into obstacles. You're running into absurd, bizarre, and horrible situations. Again and again, you can see that those psychopaths leading the masses have an influence on your life as well. Again and again, you doubt that this is going to end well, that there's an end to this ordeal, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And even more so, again and again, you're confronted with your own inner struggle, with your own inner demons, with your trauma, and your pain, and your shame, and your guilt, and your fear, which is supposed to be gone in turquoise, right? You're supposed to live in harmony, in inner peace, but it's not coming, or it's coming and going again. Then again and again, there are these really shitty challenges, externally or internally, and this is coral. Coral is spiritual warfare, internally and externally, because coral is the red of the second tier. Red is asserting yourself as an individual, not just being a nameless part of a group, but being a you, a me, an I. Red is where the ego emerges, basically. You want to decide for yourself. You don't just want to follow. But red is also the most psychopathic of all colors. Red is also tyranny, or the struggle against tyranny. It can be red or green. And here in coral you have it again. The struggle against the external tyranny of politics and economics and whatnot, and the internal tyranny of your own internal demons. In coral you might also assume the role of a leader, of a spiritual leader, spiritual guru. In search of peace, finally. Where is this peace those spiritual masters have been talking about for centuries? Where is it? And this peace is teal, which for some super interesting reason is portrayed by some of the children in the series, Carl and Judith. They grew up in this world of horror. In Judith's case, she was born. She doesn't even know how it was before the zombie apocalypse hit. But they made their peace with it, and they have an innate sense of justice and fairness and goodness. They're not looking for something like the adults. They found it already. They're living it. They don't get taken seriously by most, but everyone feels that there's something about them. And that's teal. And there you are, there you go. All the famous spell dynamics colors from beige up to coral and teal are in this series. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing the video with your friends. And see you soon.